Township Council is called to order. Madam Clerk, please read the Open Public Meeting Act.
In accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the November 8, 2018 work session regular meeting of the Franklin Township Council was provided as required by law.
Thank you. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for the invocation by Councilwoman Kimberly Francois. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, God, indivisible.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens of our community. Always the endearing life, exerting our efforts in with confidence. Continue to strive
Madam Master Clerk, please read the...
Councilman Chase, Councilwoman Francois,
here.
Councilman Galtieri,
Here.
Mayor Kramer,
Here.
Councilman Onijaka,
Here.
Councilman Prasad, Deputy Mayor Robinson, Councilman Vasanella,
Here.
Councilman Wright.
We have no commendations or proclamations. We are on to the public portion. Do I have a motion to open to the public?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Anyone wishing to, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of opening to the public, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. We are open to the public. So anyone wishing to speak, please come up, state your name and address. You are limited to 5 minutes. I have of late received criticism when I let someone go over 5 minutes, so I'm going to strictly enforce 5 minutes equally on everybody. When 5 minutes is up, 5 minutes is up, then I will allow you to finish your sentence, and that is it. You can only come up once, and no yielding of time. Come on up.
There you go. There you go. A couple things. Councilman Wright's not here tonight. I took a walk down Girard and Hillcrest. The sidewalks look fantastic. I know he worked absolutely hard. Bill Connell, 25 Spring Street. I can see it on your face. And Councilman Vasanella, I understand that you're responsible for getting the JFK part. That looks very nice too. It's like one of those things like, why wasn't that done years ago? I'm part of that, and then I was like, that is incredibly obvious. So there's my positive comment. So the resolution tonight regarding Councilman Prasad, I'm not comfortable with it, but my question is what is the financial consequences to that resolution? So what is the detailed consequences to it? And then also, congratulations, Councilwoman. When you criticize or say something, you have to come up with a better idea. So I don't think you should pass this resolution, but I do have this lovely, lovely edible arrangement for Councilman Prasad that you can give him and say thank you for laying low during the election.
Please give it to the clerk.
You might want to eat it in an executive session. It's very good.
Without political comment, I have to say, well done, Mr. Connell.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Robert Peterson. I reside at 66 Wilson Road in Somerset. So, if you'll recall at a couple of town council meetings a little while ago, Miss Peach, maybe you'll recall, that I intimated that this council had perhaps allowed one bad apple to spoil the bunch. And I know there was a comment made at the end during your time to speak where I apologize, I don't know your name, I'll just say Mrs. Peach again.
That's quite right.
Basically, took exception to my comment and basically made it sound as though I didn't know what I was talking about. And I can't believe we're here at another town council meeting where, sure enough, Mr. Prasad is the guest of honor. I mean, when are you guys going to put an end to this? I understand that you can't remove him, and we are trying to do a recall to have him removed. But come on, you added this to today's meeting agenda? This topic of conversation? Who added this, by the way? Can we inquire about that? Can we be told or informed of who made the request to, provide Mr. Prasad with a waiver, if you will? And I also find it was, if that's the case, like if you're going to put it on the agenda today, ramrod it through and pretend like, look at the room, nobody's here. Was that your intention? And if you allow him, if you exonerate him, basically what you're saying is, we got your back, buddy. Don't worry. Lay low during the election process. Lay low during the campaigning. No worries. We'll just let this all blow by. Then, conveniently after the election, we'll give you a free pass. How's that sound? I mean, is that what's happening? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to, I'm trying to give you guys the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to understand maybe where this is coming from, but put yourselves in our shoes. I'm trying, you're allowing and releasing agendas late or not at all. You're putting items on agendas late or not at all. And it's frustrating, very frustrating. I don't know, also I'll change topics quite a little bit. I didn't make one of the last meetings, and I was wondering if some of the questions were raised about, the Peace and Nonviolence Park and the financial trails that might go with that. So real quickly, I don't know how much time I have left, but, there were numerous requests from individuals and our groups to have their donations to the Peace and Nonviolence Park refunded. I don't know where that process is. But real quickly, what's the record of these donations? Who are these donations and what amounts from each? When was the first donation recorded? Have these funds been held in escrow all this time? How many other funds are being donated by other Councilman Prasad's activities that are ongoing at the present time that we have no idea about? And lastly, if these funds are to be returned to donors, does Franklin Township have an obligation to issue a notice to the Internal Revenue Service? Would we want to be very careful that the township's good standing with the IRS not be a blemish to those actions? And this would smack of either money laundering or tax evasion, no? Have any of the donations been returned until there is 100% certainty on how these monies were collected and from whom? Will this council cease and desist from making any transfer of these funds? And I would think this council would want to avoid any illegal actions, and we'd also want to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Thank you.
So I'm going to address some of that before the next speaker comes up. Ms. McCarthy, what is the status of the returning of funds?
The Community Foundation has authorized the refund to the people that have donated. We have a list that's been kept by the Community Foundation, and the refund should be out by the end of the month.
So basically, the $65,000 was donated by one person. That was all returned. The Community Foundation, there's another $14,000 to $15,000, and I don't have the exact number. The Community Foundation voted to return all of those funds of people we can find, and the IRS requirements of a 1099 are being followed in accordance with the law. Yeah, I think that answers the bulk of those questions. Yes, ma'am.
I think
And
One of the other
Ms.
questions.
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, there were some other questions that I think I can give quick answers to as well.
Okay.
The donations began in 2009. It was a very well-advertised fundraising effort on the part of the Community Foundation for a Peace and Nonviolence Memorial. There was a dinner that was held, among other things. The records have been kept by the Community Foundation throughout that time, and there have been donations from 2009 to present, till recently with the largest donation. And I remind everyone that the Community Foundation is a separate 501c3 corporation. It is not the Township of Franklin. So it is the Community Foundation that is taking those actions, not the Township of Franklin.
And the list of donors I know was, was released to the Franklin Reporter. At request, the list of donors would be released to anyone. As far as other projects by Mr. Prasad, I am unaware of any other projects of that type. I mean, working on sidewalks or street paving, I'm not including in that list. But of that type, I am aware of no others. Perhaps others here are.
And
Yes.
I think, Mr. Peterson, one of his other questions about the resolution, I will say we'll defer to the attorney because there are some time constraints and legalities surrounding that, so.
Want to do that now? Or?
Nothing to say. I think it's a resolution that council has deemed to adopt tonight, that there's a statutory timeframe, so there's no monetary implications with regards to this resolution as far as I understand. That was Mr. Connell's question.
Go ahead, ma'am. Sorry. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Karen White. I live at 106 Pear Tree Lane in Franklin Park. Before I get started on what I wanted to say, I've noticed that you are all conspicuously avoiding that all-important question of who sponsored this resolution. Is anyone willing to own up to it? To the public? To the people who voted you into office? Who pay your salaries? No.
There are no,
Okay. All right. Very, very good. I stand corrected. Okay. What I wanted to say tonight is that I'm a registered Democrat, just like all of you and Mr. Prasad. But when it comes to open council positions, I always vote for the Republican candidates. And that's because, as we all know, when a single party is running a government, you get all sorts of abuses of power and overreach and all sorts of bad things happen. I mean, we've seen this in Washington when the Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, the presidency, and now the Supreme Court. And I'm dismayed to see it now happening in my own town, where you are betraying the trust of the people who put you up there where you are. You are protecting one of your own, someone who is a criminal, who is under investigation. Why are you doing this? Why don't you do the honorable thing, the thing that your constituents, the people who voted for you, are asking you to do, and that is to ask him to resign. Okay? If you can't do that, right, you're not doing your job, you're not doing what we have asked you to do when we voted for you and put you in office. So therefore tonight, I'm calling for the resignation of the entire council for the good of the town. Thank you very much.
Robert Troutman, 13 Orchid Court, Somerset. That's kind of a hard one to follow, I got to be honest, but I'm going to try. And I'll try taking the Billy Connell approach and start with something positive, which is congratulations to our freeholder-elect. Do good things for us there, and I know you'll continue to represent us well at that level. This resolution, again, we may not have sponsors of resolutions, but how did it end up on the agenda? Who asked that it be put forth tonight is I think what everybody wants to know.
I think there was always the intent to put it on for tonight. That was we had to take action tonight, so.
Well,
When
and
Councilman Prasad, I think so, administratively, we put a resolution on.
So what is this, what is the legality of this resolution? Does this stop your ability to declare the seat vacant?
It excuses his absence, yes.
And
Doesn't
you
stop
people
it.
are honestly going to vote for this?
Doesn't stop it forever, but it excuses his absence to date, yes.
And each and every one of you sitting up there is well aware that he doesn't have family and work excuses for not making these meetings. He admitted it, that it was his actions that caused him to have these problems. And you're going to excuse him and vote and allow him to be absent while he's drawing a salary from us? That's pathetic. I also want to ask about the Human Relations Commission. Who puts the people on that board? How do they get there? How do they stay there? And how do you have a self-avowed racist on the Human Relations Commission? Someone who proudly stood up here in front of you 3 years ago and said he's a stone-cold racist. It may be because he also said he's a stone-cold Democrat.
Christina Zambri, 3 Buffett Drive in Somerset. A lot of what I was going to say was already said, and I do want to congratulate our newest freeholder-elect, Chanel Robinson. So again, as Rob said, please do good for us and represent us the way we would all like to be represented, but good luck to you. Again, I'm up here for I don't know how many times this year already asking why we're still going over issues regarding Rajiv Prasad, who's being investigated, who we've already discussed has put a tarnish and a blemish on the Township Council and the the residents' level of trust in you and transparency, which some of you demeaned him for that and others stood back and said nothing, which tells me a lot again about party politics. This is a man who's under investigation. This is a man that has caused such division in our township, which is normally, again, one of the things I love about this township is the fact that it's diverse. I grew up here. I'm choosing to raise my daughter here, and it breaks my heart to see this happening. And regarding the resolution, I don't buy that it suddenly had to be put on there today when other things get added sooner than that. And I'd like to ask, why does it have to be done today? One of you said that it had to be done today.
Once again, we keep going. There's a statutory, an 8-week requirement in the statute, so tonight is the night we would act on it.
And you all think it's acceptable that the taxpayers continue to pay for his salary and benefits throughout the remainder of his term, and he does not fulfill his duties that he was elected to? You find this acceptable? That answers that question. Again, and it says in the resolution, it says that his issues that you're going to discuss regarding family and life matters are excusable, in which case you will consider his resolution. And as has been documented numerous times, including by Prasad himself, the reasons for his issues are all stem from his own actions and the turmoil that he's caused in this town. So can someone explain to me how he's getting excused for something that he caused himself, and again, that we're going to continue paying for? How is that excusable? It's one thing if there's a sick spouse or somebody in the family passes away or something like that. Those are tragic, horrible things that people have to deal with. This is him running away from the public. This is him hiding. This is issues that stem from his own actions. And by you, again, even considering a resolution, you're going against what we've discussed in the past about transparency in government and trust in the town council. I am a Republican. I don't vote straight down the Republican line. I look at every candidate. But what I see here is an entire council full of Democrats that are standing up for their own. This was also conveniently done after the election and not before it, which everyone finds a little bit hinky. So what happens to his duties that he was elected to fulfill if he's absent until the election? Who takes care of them? his committees, his whatever he councils he's on? Nobody. Our taxpayer dollars at work. Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
reserve my comments at the end when so I won't prolong any time, if you'll wait.
Skip Schaefer, 2 Laird Terrace, Somerset. I was hoping to address these comments face-to-face with Mr. Prasad this evening, but a gutless coward and bully chooses not to show up and perform his duties as council person. My comments also apply to the council as a whole. There's a situation in sports where 2 teams get together to play a game or to play a series, and everything goes right for one team and nothing goes right for the other team. And what happens a lot of times is the team that is way ahead loses their focus, they lose their intensity, they let the other team come back, sometimes win the game, sometimes win the series. The worst example I can refer to is the 2004 Yankees-Red Sox, where the Yankees were ahead 3-0, and they did not step on the Red Sox throat, and they lost 4 straight, and the world has been a darker place since then. This community is not going to forget. We are going to continue to show up, council meeting after council meeting, to step on Mr. Prasad's throat and on the council's throat. You're going to be replacing Mrs. Robinson in the next few weeks. Why don't you strongly advise Mr. Prasad to resign, and you can replace him as well with one of your chosen. We're going to continue to show up here, and we're going to continue to remind the council of the shame and embarrassment that Mr. Prasad has brought on you. You're all wearing cloaks of shame and embarrassment that he has brought on you, not once, but twice. His usefulness to this council and to this town is over. It's gone. There won't be any healing, there won't be any forgiveness from this community until Mr. Prasad is gone. I'm calling on him to resign or suffer the indignity of being recalled. And if you pass this resolution tonight regarding his absences, instead of paying that man, why don't you donate his salary to some sort of peace and nonviolence organization? He does not deserve to be paid. He does not deserve to be on this council any longer. And we are going to keep reminding you of that until he is gone. And you're going to continue to wear that scarlet P on your foreheads and that cloak of shame and embarrassment that he has brought on you, not once, but twice. Let's end this now.
Benjamin Guy, 35 Patton Drive. So to start off light, I'd like to applaud Ms. Robinson for your due diligence over the last couple years, just to fight and get there, because it was a long, drawn out process to get to that seat. And because that was it was one of the things that hasn't been done in 40 years, where we've actually had a advocate on the other side to actually balance out. It's very commendable thing that's there. Now, to address the thing at hand, because it's been imbalanced for the whole time frame. With like I said before, and I said it at a different council meeting, I keep saying it again. We always got to have a sacrificial lamb because, again, as I stated to you guys probably about 2-3 years ago when we first went through this, that you had an uprising that was going on in this town regardless. Because as much as we say we're together, we're not together. And like I said, this is a perfect opportunity of showing how you are not together, because this unrest has nothing to do with the town business. Has nothing to do with town business at all, because as stated by the township manager, as stated by the legal representation of the township, this is not township business. This is it was a community affairs fund that the town had adopted and got involved with over the last decade, and it's just coming up now. So this is not something new. So all this vitriol just happened to happen during election time frame. So again, this has been going on since Catawba Park. Vitriol to the person. This is personal. It has nothing to do with township business at all. Because again, if you have a problem with an individual, you need to talk to that individual outside of township quarters, because again, this has nothing to do with the town. Because as far as funding, as far as opportunity, as far as the project is concerned, project's dead, project stalled right now, money's gone. So it'll come back up at a later date when it got to get reapproved at all. But right now, we're talking about business. We're not talking about social, we're not talking about personal. A lot of these comments are getting to be personal, which has nothing to do with the town. And again, it's getting addressed in township business quarters, which doesn't need to be done. So if there's a private session or open forum meeting that needs to be held, maybe the senior center or something like that, have it there to get it all out, to get to a resolution portion. As stated, this has nothing to do with the town. You guys are making yourself look bad. I have no problem making you guys can make yourself look bad all you want. Republican, Democrat, whatever you want to do, you guys are infighting in public for no reason. Just because it was around election time frame. Because this didn't get into an uprising until it got to election time frame. And that's why specifically the people that are coming up here, not to point out specific people, Mr. LaCourte and everybody else that was involved with this, that started this uprising as far as starting this during the election time frame, started this whole conversation to actually engage election talk. Had nothing to do with the township business itself. And I just want to make sure that we are clear about where this stuff is coming from. Because again, we want to talk around it a lot of times, and we don't want to address the elephant in the room. This is a personal conversation. There's about 15 people that have a personal problem with an individual. 15 people. So again, if we're going to keep tolerating this, fine. We can keep for the next year and a half, 2 years. Because his election, he's on the seat for the next 2 years. So a year and a half, 2 years before you can do anything. So you can keep going as long as you want. The town is the town. It is what it is. There's been a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. And I'll refrain from any other comments from there. Thank you.
L. Peterson, 66 Wilson Road. I just have one thing to add, and I hope you guys can forgive me, but I just asked around, and we're still confused about who wrote the resolution. Somebody did have to pen it, write it, and I'm not sure if I understood correctly, but did Mr. Prasad write that resolution? And I am part of the recall campaign here for recalling Councilman Prasad, and I think that myself and others in the group would just like to point out that it's just as easy for us to get 11,000 signatures, if that's easy, but we're going to do it. It's just as easy for us to get one person recalled as it is while we're going around. We can do all kinds of recalls. So I just wanted to add that. But if you guys could clear up exactly where the resolution came from, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Alex Karazi, 14 Margaret Drive. So Mayor, there have been two positive events in our township, and I'd like to talk about those. And the first one was a vigil that we held on October 28th, the day after the killing of 11 innocent people at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. And we had over 200 people, including some of the leadership that's sitting here, Mr. Mayor, yourself, and Councilman Onikaja. And also we had clergy also came. And it was a wonderful event showing not only solidarity with the families of the victims and the Jewish families around the United States, but also reaffirming our commitment to be united, to respect each other, to love each other, and also make sure that we reject any form of hate and bigotry. So I wanted to mention that it was a wonderful event. In less than almost 18 hours, we had over 200 people gathered at the Masjid Ali Mosque to recognize the victims. And this was sponsored by the Franklin Township Interfaith Council. The second event, of course, was the election. And first of all, congratulations, Councilwoman, and congratulations your partner, and congratulations to all the winners. But honestly, the winners were all the community members who came and they voted. As you know, our center has been a polling station for the last 2 years. And I opened the place myself at 4:30 a.m. so the poll worker can come and prepare the machines. And even before 6 o'clock, we had people there coming to vote. During the day, even though there were a lot of rain, people were coming in from senior citizens, people in wheelchairs, and there were a lot of families that they brought their own little kids so they can witness. And for me, especially, it's a very special day that I look forward, because I, along with a couple of other volunteers in our center, we welcome our community members. In fact, we have a tradition that we've started 2 years ago to have coffee, tea, and cookies for the voters, and we kept that tradition. And there were people that they had not voted during the last 2 years because it was the first time they come into our center from District 14, 15, and 16. And we had the opportunity to make more friends. And it was a wonderful day for us and for the community. So I want to congratulate really the community members who came and they voted, and they had the opportunity to, like along with all of us, to fulfill our civic responsibilities to vote. So I wanted to mention that there was a beautiful day for Franklin Township and Franklin Township community. Thank you.
Brian Ulrich, 209 Wilson Road. Congratulations on your win. You know, I really hate getting up here. I know you all know that I hate getting up here and speaking. Well, I don't think you realize I hate getting up here and speaking, but I hate getting up here and speaking. This resolution that you presented tonight, whereas Councilman Rajiv Prasad has informed the Township Council that he has various family and work matters that would cause him to be unable to attend council and other meetings. All the other resolutions, you all know inside of you that that's a lie. You all know it. If any one of these other resolutions you knew inside wasn't correct, would you still vote on that? Would you go along with it? Because that's what you're doing. If you vote and agree with this, you know it's a lie. You know it's not correct. He brought this all on himself with what he started off doing to me and my wife. And every single one of you tonight voting need to look at me in the audience, because I'm going to be watching you as you cast your vote, because he did this to me and my wife. A couple of months ago, you know, all the uproar started with sneaking something onto the schedule, and then this appeared on the schedule today. Like, we're doing it again. One of the other speakers, I don't know who it was, but said that a couple weeks ago about the rotten apple. You know, I think you were upset about it. This vote is the one that's going to spoil the bunch. It's going to spoil the bunch, this vote. Don't let it spoil the bunch. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward, I make a motion that we close the public session.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion on the vote, all in favor of closing public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion is carried. We are now on to council committee reports and comments. Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First and foremost, I'd like to thank like to wish our Councilwoman at Large, Miss Chanel Robinson, in her new position come January. I hope that you bring hope that you bring there what you brought here to help us move forward. So for that, I thank you. Redevelopment Agency. We approved our audit of the 2017 calendar year, and there were no recommendations from our accountant to the way we were handling our business. We approved our 2019 budget a little bit late, and over the previous years it has decreased. The majority of the budget will be paid from, as it always has been, by our redevelopers in our particular neighborhood and areas. Under the housing rehabilitation discharge, whenever we discharge a quote-unquote mortgage for things that we do on people's houses, what we've done is, instead of having that information brought to the council for us to vote on all the time, we have a form now developed by Mark Healy, our Director of Planning, with our Township Manager, Mr. Vornlacher, to only have a form filled out and brought into the office, and that is a simpler way to have that discharge. I'm more than sure our Township Manager will get into the nuances of that if he wishes, or if I don't explain it right. I did right? Thank you. On our Land Use Committee meeting, the only thing that really went into that was, again, that discharge of mortgage, and then some other things that we can't speak, so we'll let that ride until further notice. But I will say that it was Councilman Chase, Vassanella, myself, and Mayor Kramer who stood in for at-large Prasad in that particular meeting. Sorry I'm late, but I just got off the train coming from work, and I left everything there, but I'm here, and
Okay.
I'm sorry. Councilman Vassanella.
Well, congratulations, Councilwoman, freeholder-elect. Not to take the spotlight off you, but now we actually have two freeholders from Franklin Township, ex-Mayor Levine, and it was quite an election, and I think you have a lot to be proud of, and I know we will have a lot more to be proud of when you're over there serving us in Somerville. Councilman Wright reported on the land use meeting. Public Works will be meeting in a couple weeks. We will soon be getting an early start this year on looking at our roads so that we're well-versed in what we need to look at as far as the budget and with road repairing next year. Mr. Connell, if he's still here, there he is in the back. Thank you for the mention of sidewalk. It's technically the fourth ward, but as any council member is allowed to do, if there's something they see in any area of town, even if they're from one ward, you work to get it done, and usually in cooperation with, in this circumstance, Councilman Wright, being that it's fourth ward. And a few people have commented it's kind of 60 years in the making because, as you know, by going to St. Matthias, that used to be a mud path, and I've already heard that it's being used by maybe not a lot of people, but the children and others who use that to walk home that way. And I think the history of it is basically because of, sorry, because there was a creek, there was a waterway there of sorts that for some reason when Levitt was built and they did the sidewalks, that area was just skipped. But if you or anybody else sees an area like that where there's a patch missing, which makes sense, by all means bring it to any council person's attention, and hopefully we'll get it done. We won't be meeting until after Thanksgiving. So I hope everyone out there has a happy Thanksgiving. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Vasanella. Kimberly Francois.
Yeah, I'd like to first say that there was a hearing on November 5th over at the Franklin Township High School. I went over there. The place was packed, and I want to congratulate all the residents and all the people that came out and spoke against the compressor station. I thought it was very effective. A lot of people submitted written comments. It's good that people people in Franklin Township are galvanizing against this project and letting the Transcontinental Gas Pipeline Company, known Transco, that we do not want that here. So I thank everybody for coming out. I also want to say congratulations to Councilwoman Deputy Mayor Chanel Robinson. What a historic occasion. You have made us all so very, very proud, and you will continue to make us proud. Congratulations, and we're really, really happy to have you be there to represent Franklin Township. Keep up the good work, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Onijaka.
Yes, Mayor. First of all, I want to use this privilege to thank Dr. Alex Karachi. In fact, I have the privilege to attend the night vigil, and as much as the time the action happened and the time to organize the vigil was a little bit short, but still, the turnout was very, very great, and we had the opportunity to meet different clergies and religious heads, and they was speaking with one voice, condemning what is actually to be condemned. And we have the privilege to understand each other and understand that we're all one. And Franklin Township preaches what? Diversity. So I was there, and we all noticed what happened. She said, thank you, Dr. Alex. Continue your good job. Secondly, I want to use this opportunity again to congratulate our Deputy Mayor for this, for her victory in the last election. She did a very good job. It wasn't easy at all, because I know when she started walking through my own ward and the whole Franklin with the mayor. I thank you. And no doubt I know that she's going to represent us well, as she has been doing. So I say again, thank you. That is it, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Will Gualtieri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, congratulations, Deputy Mayor. But he finally get a win after. But congratulations, and I know that you'll take the same work ethic that you have here to the county level. So, as far as committee reports, well, we didn't have admin committee tonight because we're very much sitting here. Sewage Authority, there's a couple follow-up items that will be taken from the authority to brought to the council or for a later date for discussion. I am happy to report, and I forgot to report this at the last meeting, that the Rodney Avenue project is finally completed, with the exception of some landscaping, which of course we cannot do in the fall because no point in planting grass seed when it's just going to die off in the winter. So I am ecstatic to say that. I am also happy to report that the what's labeled as the Somerset Street project is moving along well. That Brookline is, we're trying to minimize inconvenience to the residents, but most of the piping is actually done. And also Foxwood is moving along as pretty well. So good job so that's some project updates. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the poll workers who worked on Tuesday and all the members, especially the clerk's office. I know sitting here after each of the elections, and any other employees that might have been here, I don't want to exclude anybody, but I know sitting here, I watched them run around trying to get the results as quickly as possible, and really do appreciate the work that they do and the long days that they have. And then echoing Councilman Vasanella, we won't be meeting again till after Thanksgiving, so an early happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I hope everybody has a good holiday and safe travels. And a day, I know I'm a day late, but happy Diwali to anybody that celebrated this week. The only comment that I really want to make is as far as Councilman Prasad's roles right now is that this did come up, and we have made sure that council members are available to fill in his seats. So any of his boards, I know I've gotten several phone calls to try to attend meetings when I could. Unfortunately, I couldn't because of either work or other obligations. But there has been an attempt to fill every meeting, as far as I know, that I've received. So that's the one comment that I want to make on that. But other than that, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Beholder Robinson.
Thank you, everyone, on the congratulations. But this is bittersweet. And I'm crying. And it hurts, but this is what democracy is about. While I am a registered Democrat, I'm here to serve all people, whether you vote for me or not, because that's what good leadership is about. And I'm listening to people coming up time and time again about Mr. Prasad and the foundation, so I'll get that done and over with. I didn't take an oath to manage people and what they do and do not do. I've raised 3 children, and I now am a grandmother to 3. I defer when it comes to the legalities to our legal counsel, and to wait from a statutory perspective, things have to be done in a timely fashion. I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I would hope that when I am absent, I do have committee minutes or things to report, I most often tell the mayor and the manager and ask that whatever I have to present be read in my absence. Let personal things be personal. We're here to legislate and have governance. While I do understand and hear your concerns, that's not what I took an oath of office to do. And as far as the investigation, I think we have to, again, turn to legal counsel as to what we are allowed, what we are functioning to do, what our role is when it comes to those matters. I'm not here to judge anybody. That is not part of my job description. Whether I condone, whether I disagree, approve or refute. If you want to know who I am as a leader outside of what I'm required to do and what I took an oath of office to do, I've given my number. Nobody has called to reach out. No, I take that back. One person did call to reach out and have a conversation. However, this is not the place to air out personal agendas. Personal agendas, when you're in a governing body and a leadership, egos must be checked at the door. Personal agendas must be checked at the door. And as far as this item being on the agenda, I'm just going to put it out there. It may not be the most popular thing, but when I'm made aware of the agenda and items that are going on the agenda as part of being part of the agenda meeting, it was my understanding that it was always supposed to be put on the agenda. And unbeknownst to me, when somebody said that it appeared today, I don't agree with that. And again, it may not be the most popular thing, and somebody may say something about me saying it or not saying it, but I'm saying it. It was supposed to be on the agenda, and it should not have appeared on the agenda today. I'm not in agreement with that. For whatever reason, whoever did or did not, it should have been on the agenda already. And I understand why the trust of the people for government is not there. And that was one of the reasons why I ran the first time when I ran on council. There has to be someone with a sound mind, and I'm not saying that anybody else does not, but I can only speak for myself. We do have to be held accountable for our actions, individually and collectively. And with that being said, again, as far as the investigation, it's an investigation. If we were out of our legal realm and what we were able to do, if we're doing something wrong, that's what we have legal counsel for. He said it, and you can, if I'm misquoting you or misrepresenting what has been said or what you have been advising us and have been advising the public, for the resolution, it's a statutory thing. So by law, we have to do something. We're required to do something, so it is on the agenda. He did also say there's nothing legally that we could do. Democracy is working. There's a recall. I don't know what else to tell the public. Again, my win is a bittersweet because my days are numbered here. That does not mean that I will not stay connected because I'm a taxpaying resident and citizen of Franklin Township, first and foremost. Regardless of what my title, regardless of what my role, I'm here for the community. Anything else, anything that anybody tries to paint me otherwise, then you don't know me and don't know who I am. Let me speak for myself. Let me represent myself while representing the people of Franklin Township. I know when to be a team player, and I know when to be a maverick and be a person to be an individual thinker. Again, thank you for this time. Thank you for the opportunity. Again, my days are numbered here in Franklin Township as far as being on council. I will only be in Somerville, but I'm here. My heart is here. My resident is here, and I still will be here for the people of Franklin. So if the meetings don't continue to be conflict with Franklin Township's meetings, I will be attending meetings and making my voice continue to be heard, whether I'm physically here or not. Councilwoman Francois, I thought you were going to mention Hamilton Street since we met on Monday, but congratulations on the trunk or treat. I can report from Hamilton Street that cameras are going up, and Bob, you can speak more about as to
They went up today.
Okay, and there's still some programming and some other things that need to be done.
Yeah, there's just some issues with public service, but the cameras are mounted.
Okay, so that's moving forward. So other than that, happy Thanksgiving to all, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. For my comments, I want to echo the words of Mr. Karazi. It was heartwarming to have a visual in recognition of the tragedy at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, and it was heartwarming that the vigil was held at a mosque. That shows how Franklin comes together with these things. There was also a hearing for the DEP related to the pipeline that was extremely well attended. 100 people signed up to speak. I was able to speak against the pipeline and the wetlands intrusion of the pipeline facility. If people wish to help stop the pipeline, go to scrap-nese.org, and they will inform you about future meetings. Again, congratulations to our newest freeholder. And that concludes my comments, Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
before Mr. Vornlocker goes, I forgot something. and blame it on that crazy train ride here. It was unbelievable. I want to thank the council. Sidewalks look good. While I was out there on the streets, it really looked good out there. And I want to thank the residents for putting up with the sidewalks. Again, it was for the safety of the kids as they go and come from school. But it was the safety of our adult community too, because now you have something to walk on instead of the snow, the rain, and everything else. Especially Councilman Basanella, who was definitely there on the 5th Ward. I definitely appreciate that. And Township Manager, Mr. Vornlocker, for putting up with my crazy stuff out there. But it worked, and I'm glad to have done it, and let's see if we can push for some more. If I can get the council members to ante up. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I have just one thing to report that hasn't been talked about. This Sunday, actually, and the holiday falls, the federal holiday falls on Monday, but this Sunday at 11 a.m. on November 11th commemorates the 100th anniversary of the armistice between the Allied forces in Germany that ultimately became Veterans Day. So my first thing is to thank the two veterans up here, the Deputy Mayor Robinson and the Mayor Kramer, both of whom served admirably in the United States Air Force. So thank you for your service, and we can thank you again at the Franklin Township Veterans Day ceremony to be held beginning at 10:30 a.m. with an honorary bell ringing at 11:11 a.m. on Monday the 12th, the state and federal holiday. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let me find my place here.
And then I get to talk again, so.
Yes. Yes, it's going to be all about you. Item number 9, council discussion items. The first one is authorities, agencies, and fire districts. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So annually, the State Department of Community Affairs, and that's B, the best practices inventory, includes one of the suggestions that annually we just raise the fact that we have several agencies and authorities and districts within the town that are created by statute, but are in some manner under some form of either control or appointment by this township council, and they should be operating in good order. And if they are operating in good order, there's really nothing to do, but the township council should be giving consideration to those agencies and authorities annually. So what I just simply do at this time every year is say, so we have 4 fire districts 1 through 4, that are governed by fire commissioners who are independently elected in February as part of their responsibilities. They tax residents and oversee fire services in Franklin Township. My opinion, and I'm giving you my opinion now on all of these things, in my opinion, they're very well run. There are no reasons to be concerned about how they're being run. There's a great deal of involvement on the municipal level with the fire districts through our fire prevention office, and I don't believe that there should be any cause for concern as it relates to those organizations. We have a sewerage authority. I believe our chairman of their board sits next to me to the left. So clearly there's an oversight on the part of council and an involvement of council. Council appoints the members of their board. And I, in this particular case, I can say that I truly believe that we have one of the best, if not the best, run sewage authority in the state of New Jersey. What some people here may not realize is that the cost that you have if you're a member of the resident who has a connection to our sewage authority, that your costs are significantly low as compared to most municipalities served by a sewage authority in the state of New Jersey. As a resident of a neighboring town, I can tell you that my sewer bill is far higher than yours is. So I think that the Sewage Authority does a fantastic job, and I would anticipate they will continue to do so. We also have a housing authority. We have representatives up here on this dais that are on the housing authority, and again, the housing authority oversees not only the Parkside housing apartment complex, but also the Section 8 housing that is administered here in Franklin Township. And again, I think that the oversight of members of council sitting on that authority board certainly gives the council some assurance that it is being run appropriately. And last is our Redevelopment Agency. And the Redevelopment Agency is represented up here by Councilwoman Francois and Councilman Wright. And this is the agency that oversees our redevelopment area, primarily in the Churchill, Somerset, Franklin Boulevard, Somerset Street, Douglas Avenue, and the Renaissance area, and the Leawood redevelopment and RPM redevelopment areas. And again, I think that there's been a great deal of progress, and I think that is doing quite well as well. So I don't see any need to take any action or recommend any action as it relates to any of those agencies or authorities or commissions.
Does any council member here see reason to take action? Certainly.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, I would like to remind you that, speak only for the Sewage Authority, that we have made an effort also to now do transparent hearings.
So why don't you explain your
Yes.
affiliation with the
Yes.
Sewage Authority?
So as a commissioner and appointed chairman for this year, since May, so we've taken significant steps to ensure proper operations to further beyond what we already believe. First, we made sure that meetings, which are always open to the public, though, are recorded now and available. They are available for viewing on Franklin Township TV and through the website. We're also now bringing in a financial consultant just as an extra set of eyes to make sure that our executive or our staff has the right resources available, because being a small organization, as much as there's a lot that you put on a small staff, so you want to make sure they have the best resources available. And one topic that was brought up even just last night was we have standing committees that we are looking to now add an extra committee, and each committee, let me clarify, is 2 commissioners. We're looking to add a 5th committee for financial oversight as well, just as an extra set of eyes. So, and with that, it'll be commissioners that actually have a strong background in finances, is the goal. So while we're operating, as the manager said, we're operating smoothly, we're making an extra, and even taking an extra effort to make sure that everything's operating smoothly and everything's being spent appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment about the authorities, agencies, and fire districts? Okay, so we have discussed whether we should absorb any of these, and with no one saying that we should, no action will be taken. Item B, calendar year 2018 best practices inventory. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Annually, the Department of Community Affairs at the state of New Jersey requires all municipalities to complete a best practices inventory. The questions are unknown to us annually until the best practices worksheet is issued to each municipality. There's a specific tie on the best practices worksheet to our state aid. This year's version, which now that we have authorities, agencies, and fire districts as a discussion item, it is now complete. This year's version had 61 questions to be answered by each municipality. There is a requirement that a certain number, as I said, be answered in the affirmative or not applicable. In certain cases, obviously, there are some things that some towns don't just have affecting them. In this year's version, there were 61 to be answered, and 57 were answered in the affirmative or not applicable or perspective. And the perspective in this particular case is there were 2 questions that relate to electric vehicles in our fleet. And while we have electric vehicles on order and we have electric vehicle charging stations at the Public Works Garage to be installed, it has not been completed yet, so we answered perspective, and we get the affirmative response credit for that. Out of the 61, we have a 57 for a 93% average. When I was in school, that was an A, so I think that we're doing quite well as far as the best practices are concerned. And if anyone, I believe it's all part of your packets. If anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. I don't think I should sit here and go through all 61 questions, though. You might be somewhat bored.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, then for item C, Madam Clerk. And this is the proposed 2019 Township Council meeting schedule.
Okay. Proposed for 2019 is a reorganization / regular meeting on Monday, January 7th. Budget hearings is usually scheduled the first Tuesday in February, the second Monday, and a possible third meeting on the third Tuesday. A Board of Health meeting on June 25th, which is the second meeting in June. And the rest, for the year 2019, the only meeting that doesn't fall on a Tuesday is the first meeting in October because of Yom Kippur, which will move it to the Thursday of October 10th. That is what I have proposed, and now it's up to council.
Council have any comments?
A question for the clerk. The Board of Health meeting, I know we usually have it around that time. Is it have to be on June 25th? Is it possible it could be on June 10th or the July meeting, or is
It could be whatever you want it. Because, I mean, whatever you guys decide, then I let them know, and sometimes it works where it's the one that we actually choose. Sometimes it gets rescheduled, so you can have it anytime you want.
If possible, I would ask that it could be on June 10th as opposed to 25th, as long as that doesn't, gives time for the report and everything else to get here, if it doesn't change anything else. No, is it
June 11th.
June 11th, I'm sorry. The normal council meeting.
Okay.
You need a vote, or?
No, because you're going to, at the next meeting, you'll adopt the schedule by resolution.
That was the only question I had. And then as long as all the holidays, because I know sometimes it's not necessarily a legal holiday, but we try to be observant of other religious holidays.
Yep.
And so we've gone through the calendar and all that is good.
Yes.
Okay. That's the only questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now on to the approval of the minutes. I present the following minutes for approval by the Township Council. The work session, regular meeting, and executive session of October 23rd, 2018 at 7 p.m. Do I have a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, any corrections? Without Mr. Chase here, we probably won't have many corrections. Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka. Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Abstain.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Approval of the warrants. Sir?
Hold on, Councilman Wright hasn't voted yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, you did. You missed.
I abstained from the October 23rd meeting because I wasn't here.
Sorry, I apologize for being too eager. Approval of the warrants. Warrants are the bills we pay in the amount of $13,331,883.10 on November 8th, 2018, as presented to the Township Council for payment. Do I have a motion on the warrants?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the warrants? Anyone want to pull out a certain item to ask a question? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
We are now on to the public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. These ordinances were presented at least 2 weeks ago, and they were introduced at that time, and now they are being voted on for final adoption. There will be a public hearing before them. So ordinance 4247-18, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin County of Somerset State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 112, Development, Article 33, Affordable Housing Development Fees, is presented for the public hearing and final adoption. The public hearing has been announced as required, and do I have a motion to open for public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion, all in favor of opening for public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open for public discussion on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward for public discussion, I motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion is closed. Do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. So the item is basically raising our affordable housing, the developer fees that developers will pay. That goes into our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So there is more money for that available. Does anyone else have comment on this? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please poll the council.
Councilwoman Francois.
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri.
Yes.
Mayor Kramer.
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, that passes. Ordinance 4254-18, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 236, Municipal Services, Schedule A, Canal Walk, Phase 21, as presented for the public hearing and final adoption. Public hearing has been noticed as required. Do I have a motion to open for public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion. All in favor of opening for public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now open for public discussion on this item only.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward to speak from the public, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now closed for public discussion on this item. Do I have a motion on the item?
Excuse me.
Sir?
We're going to explain that, right?
Yes, as we
No
always do,
problem.
right
No,
after we
yeah,
get a
no.
motion in a second.
You good. You good. I'm sorry.
Okay, great. Do I have a motion on the item? Maybe you want to motion it, Mr. Move it?
Yes, go right ahead. It's moved.
Okay,
Second.
I'll take motion in a second. So this item, as you have requested, Mr. Wright, is about Canal Walk. We are taking over their streets and their lighting, as I believe, as we do with most of these communities. Once the developer has finished a certain portion of it, we then become responsible for maintaining the streets, plowing the streets, or I think in this case, we are reimbursing them to plow their streets.
So this is a reimbursement
Yeah.
for plowing of streets and taking over the electric bills for qualifying streetlights.
Right, and basically, if we say no, they will say, but state law says you have to, and they will sue, and then we will do it anyway. Not trying to influence your vote.
Is this a
Any
good
other-
thing?
What, pardon?
Is this a good thing?
It's a thing. We have to do it. There is no choice. I mean, yes, we're serving our people. We're getting their streets plowed. We're making sure there's street lighting. Would I prefer personally that if the homeowners association had to pay for it? That would be great. But, you know, they live in the town, and just like people who don't live in homeowners associations, you know, my street gets plowed, and the street lights are there, and I don't pay for it out of any way other than my taxes. They pay taxes too, so I suppose it is fair, my opinion. Anyone else wishing to comment? We have done this many a time before.
There's a whole list in the municipal code book. We've done it lots of times.
This is section 21.
That's what I was trying to
gives you
bring
an
out
idea.
there, yes.
Yeah, section 21. So we could go over the other 20 sections. If
Yeah,
All right.
just in that one development.
Yeah. So we have a motion, a second, and discussion. I see no other discussion. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri,
Yes.
Mayor Kramer,
Yes.
Councilman Onechaka,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
We are now on to 4255-18, an ordinance to amend the code of the Township of Franklin County of Somerset and State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 226, Vehicle and Traffic, Section 226-2, Turn Prohibitions. This is about the left turns on Easton Avenue, as presented to Township Council for final adoption. The public hearing has been noticed and is in order. Do we have a motion to open for public hearing?
So moved.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on it. All in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open for public discussion on this item only. Thank you, Mr. Connell. Name and address.
Good evening again. I was just wondering, one of the
Name and
questions,
address.
what,
Name and
25
address.
Spring Street,
Name.
William Connell,
Thank you.
man, the myth, the legend. People often ask why that area does not have barriers in the first place, and I just,
I would suggest you direct that question to the Board of Chosen Freeholders of Somerset County,
sorry about that, Chanel.
because that road is under their jurisdiction, and I would love to hear the answer to it.
So what have you
why
done
don't you
for
go to
us
Somerville and
today?
ask them?
Okay.
What have you done for us today, Freeholder Robinson?
There's your first job.
One of the reasons is that, and I will tell you that just a short reason here, that it would be a significant infrastructure improvement. It would require the acquisition of additional right-of-way because the current roadway width is not sufficient to support the center barrier without widening the road, and it's a big project. And so, but yeah, no, I would suggest you go to Somerville and ask those 5 people that sit up there.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item only? Sir.
Seeing no one come forward, I make a motion we close public session.
Second.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion, all in favor of closing public session on this item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, so this is no left turns onto Easton Avenue on the streets in the western part of Easton Avenue. And there has already been a similar, I don't know if you call it an ordinance by the county, but
It is an ordinance. The county has prohibited left turns from Easton Avenue onto these side streets, and then now we do the companion ordinance prohibiting them from the side streets onto Easton Avenue.
so no left turns in either direction. This will complete it. Are there other questions or discussion items?
Mayor, just wanted
Yes,
to
sir.
respond to Mr. Connell. Although the barrier situation is quite complex, like the manager was explaining, there are other initiatives. They're not part of this ordinance, but hoping to work with Freeholder-elect Robinson and the rest of the freeholders to put into place some more initiatives that we need to do with the county and with their approval, and some others that we can do on our own, but most of it we have to do with the county's involvement. So although you probably won't see a divider soon, there are other issues besides these left-hand turns we hope to see in the near future.
Mr. Mayor, can we just, I guess the clarification would be upon approval, if this were approved, when would this go into effect?
So I have a DPW crew and a Somerset County traffic safety crew preparing to do it tomorrow, weather permitting. So there's striping work that has to be done, pavement markings and signage, and they have already done the markouts and are ready to do this work tomorrow. But I hear it might rain, so that precludes the pavement markings, and it may have to wait till Tuesday. I'm sorry, Monday's a holiday, Tuesday. But the plan is to have it done tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
So are we going to put notification out on Nixle and on the website?
It'll be pretty apparent when you see a big giant sign that says no left turn, and this is generally, that wouldn't ordinarily be the case. I mean, we enact traffic ordinances quite regularly, and there'll be signs up. I mean, but we can certainly get the word out.
It's a recommendation because
We can get the word out.
when you're on a roadway that you commonly travel through, you don't necessarily pay that close of attention. Some people don't.
So I agree. I think that in this particular case, and we'll certainly do it, and I'll take your suggestion. Just as a side note, though, that the number of people that actually do this on times other than 3 in the morning are so few and far between that I don't know that it's going to require a great deal of notification. That particular neighborhood, the traffic patterns there generally lend itself to those who are residents of that neighborhood, and the overwhelming majority of those people know that the volume of traffic at this point, and that's really what this is about, the volume of traffic is such on Easton Avenue that it makes it just about impossible to make these movements, so they use the road that has a traffic signal, which is Willow Avenue. But yeah, no, Nixle can certainly go out. I'll certainly have a discussion with the traffic sergeant tomorrow if we move forward with this.
Ordinance on introduction and first reading. I'm
we did
sorry.
take a
Yes,
vote.
we actually should try to pass this. Yes. So we have a motion, a second, and discussion on. Is there any other discussion on the item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onichaka?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
So ordinances, that's all the second ordinances, second readings, ordinances on second reading. Now we have ordinance on introduction and first reading. This is where we introduce them to the public. Ordinance 4256-18, an ordinance releasing, extinguishing, and vacating the rights of the public to a street known as Stone Place in the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey. The foregoing ordinance is presented to Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, November 27th, our next meeting, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. So this is a little street, maybe twice the length of this room, that's adjacent to the First Baptist Church. It's perpendicular to Route 27 and it dead ends. And it is paved. And it is between the First Baptist Church property and a person's home, maybe a couple people's homes. And trucks frequently park there, and the community is not thrilled about trucks parking there. If we vacate the street and give it to the First Baptist Church and the homeowners there, then they can do with it what they wish, and it would be no longer able for trucks to park there. So that is the impetus behind this. Any other discussion on this?
Would you like, so most of what you just said is pretty on point there. So the little dead-end street is off of Fuller Street, and it comes, Fuller Street runs along the Parkside apartment buildings on Fuller Street. And back in another lifetime, I would have called this an attractive nuisance, and the street has become an attractive nuisance. What happens is people park trucks there, which it's illegal to park them there, but because there are no houses that front it, generally speaking, no one whose adjoining properties are complaining. A street vacation is simply just removing the right-of-way, and the property that would otherwise be the adjoining property owners becomes the adjoining property owners by the vacation. And that's really what a street vacation is here. In this particular case, the overwhelming majority of that frontage is owned by First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, who can absorb this property, and it can be fenced off, and the attractive nuisance is abated without municipal involvement, just simply by the transfer of the rights to the property moving from the township to the adjoining property owners, thus right of way. We had a right, and now we're going to extinguish our right. We do this fairly often with paper streets. It's not so common that we do this with improved streets, but in this particular case, this street was significantly altered with the acquisition of a great deal of property in that area by the First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens when they built their new church. I guess it's back in the late 90s, early 2000s, Councilwoman? Am I right? I mean, I'm testing my memory here. This just seems like the right thing to do with this particular. It doesn't serve any municipal purpose. It serves no public purpose other than to be a nuisance. So this is one of the ways that we can abate our nuisance.
Anyone else wish to comment on this? Okay, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Thank you, Mr. Vornlocker, for that explanation. Thank
You're
you very
welcome,
much.
Councilman.
Ordinance 4257-18, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 50, Police Department, Article 1, Section 50-4, composition and titles. Increased number of patrol officers from 79 to 82. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Tuesday, November 27, 2018, at 7 p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Do I have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Basically, that last part of what I said, we are looking to increase our police force by 3 people. Our police force is now 105 officers total, of which 79 are patrol officers. And with a force that size, statistically, at any time, you're going to have 1 or 2 people out there. If you take the exact size of the force, basically your full shifts every time, every day, and this gives them a little leeway without having to do overtime. The chief has come to us and requested this increase, and this was presented at financial oversight, and there were 3 people present, and all 3 thought this was a good idea. So we're now bringing it to the whole council. Any other discussion?
If I could add just a little bit to this, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
So one of the other issues that we are now confronted with is the fact that we have changed the way that we are hiring new police officers from something that we have done for over 20 years, which was hiring certified police officers, which didn't require any academy time and basically went to work right away, versus now giving a test and running that process and then sending recruits to the police academy. During that period of time, that's a 6-month process as they're in the police academy, and then there's a 3-month training period after the police academy. So you're talking about 9 months. And during those 9-month periods, inevitably, inevitably, based on the size of our department and the maturity of our police department, people will retire. And if you don't replace those retirees now, when they're, they're going to retire in, say, 3 months. But if we don't replace them now and send the recruit to the police academy, we're down that position for well over a year because the next police academy doesn't start until the spring of 2020. So, the January of 2020, I should say winter of 2020. That's 1 full year that we've lost. So that's the big reason to increase the authorized strength. Doesn't necessarily mean that we will always have 108 officers. We probably won't, but it'll allow us to continue to replenish based on the length of time that it takes. And then one of these positions also is the fact that, given the fact that we now have 2 middle schools, we now have an additional school resource officer that we didn't have in the last budget year, and that officer's salary is primarily funded by the Board of Education. So you're looking at the loss of 1 general patrol officer from the squads that's now assigned to one of the middle schools that wasn't there when we only had 1 middle school.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item?
I was going to say our population or the growth. Or the potential
That'll
growth
be a
of our
talk for
population
budget time, but this isn't in addressing a specific need now.
But I think the point you were making, go ahead, make it.
Planning and preparing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in 2010, we laid off a bunch of officers, reduced our force strength to 104. And if someone were to deem that was the correct force strength for the population we had at the time, and now you take how much the population has grown, if you do the math, it comes out that we should have a force strength of 109. This will make a force strength of 108, so pretty close. Another way to look at it, but I think that was the point that was. So any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
So you may have, the next item is consent agenda, and you may have noticed that the attorney and I were having some whispering going on. What the attorney has informed me is that there are legal issues, conceivable litigation issues regarding the resolution that people have questioned. So he has advised me that it might be that it would be appropriate to go into executive session to discuss that under attorney-client privilege.
Correct. That's correct, Mayor.
Do we have a motion to go into executive session for attorney-client privilege for this particular item?
Mayor?
Sir.
Just if I quickly mention something I had forgotten under my comments before anybody motions for this.
Okay, prior to the motion, it's not to do with this?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I just, in talking to Mr. Connell about the sidewalk and absorbing the comments from the public, I forgot to mention, I know it was mentioned, but I feel compelled to mention that, Mr. Corazzi, I truly appreciate you putting together the gathering you did. When I heard about it, I was just amazed that it was happening and happening that quick. And I made sure my schedule could change and get there. And I brought my 13-year-old son, who I thought would benefit by seeing that type of love come together. And the room was packed. People coming to it. It was standing room only. And I felt it was important to say thank you. And unfortunately today, as many may realize, at least I woke up to hearing about the horrible, horrible thing that happened in California. And I don't think it had any religious connections, but the fact that another dozen people and more are dead or injured, and a police officer trying to save people's lives is just horrendous. And again, thank you for what you did. And I hope people can keep the victims of that terrible thing that happened this morning or late last night, especially the officer who died in the line of duty, in their prayers. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So back to the executive session.
Since we're digressing, I'd like to say something too.
Okay.
So when Vaughn Locker brought up the Veterans Memorial Day ceremony, today is my deceased father's birthday. So it's very hard for me to be here right now. He died. He actually was in the World War II. He was given a Purple Heart. He was shot in the head. His toe was shot off. And so, you know, when I sit here at a council meeting and make a lot of sacrifices about being here when emotionally I'm distraught about something that's happened to me. And I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So while all that was going on, my mother was out shopping, and I was texting her saying, where are you? Is everybody okay? I was texting everybody in my family. So, you know, we all sit up here, and we're all human beings. We all go through personal situations in our lives. We all make sacrifices that a lot of people don't acknowledge. And so, you know, I'm doing the best I can sitting up here, and I think one of the things that, you know, really affected me, since I've been on the council, I don't think I've ever gone to a Veterans Day memorial service because it's always been too much for me to bear that. So I just wanted to say, just like you said, thank you for taking the time to have that visual. I didn't mention the fact that I appreciated that. I couldn't be there. It's just painful for me sometimes when these things come up. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to piggyback on what you just said. Thank you, Councilman Vasanella.
Anyone else? Okay, so we were discussing going into an executive session for attorney-client privilege. Do we have a motion to do so? Do we have a motion to do so? If not, we will continue.
Does the attorney feel that's appropriate? I would motion that we do.
Well, it certainly is appropriate, so it's council's decision, though.
Okay. I'll move the motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of going into executive session for attorney-client privilege, say aye.
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 Aye. Or do we need, no, we need a roll call. Sorry. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
No.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
So that passes? Madam Clerk, that passes? 4-2.
Yeah, that's passes.
Okay, so that passes.
Fine.
So we're going to now adjourn into executive session. There will be action after this. The taping will stop temporarily, but it will come back afterwards. We will come back and we will take action on the rest of the agenda. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
Motion.
Do I have a second? I'll take Mr. Wright's comments as a second. Motion and a second to come out of executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now back in the public session. The next item is, I know that, but I just want to. The next item is consent agenda. Items A through N, as listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. So we need a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Do we have that?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
And a second. So now, is there any discussion? Is there any item that wishes to be pulled or discussed separately on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, madam.
I'd like to make a motion that Resolution 18-431, authorizing excused absence of Rajiv Prasad for family work reasons, be removed from the consent agenda. given the fact of what we heard from our legal advice that we received from our attorney.
Okay, that is a motion. Do we have a second to remove it?
Second.
Do we have to vote on that or acclamation, Madam Clerk? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I'm sorry. Thank you, Councilwoman. Do we have any comments, any discussion?
I think also, given what was said from the public tonight, we heard you, that this is part of it as well, so.
I would agree that is what moved me. Any other discussion?
You asking us to pull? Or
The vote will be to, a yes vote will be to remove this from the agenda. A no vote will be to keep it on the agenda.
Just want to make it clear, remove from the consent agenda or move from the agenda? Remove from the agenda.
Remove
Move
from the agenda. What's the motion?
Any other discussion? One potato, two potato? No. I'm sorry. Yes, all in favor of removing it from the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution 18-43, authorized excused absence, Rashid Prasad, family work reasons, is removed from the agenda. Are there any other items people wish to remove or discuss separately from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Sir?
I'm sorry to catch our township manager short, but items G.
You never catch me short. I'm always prepared, Councilman.
Everyone can catch me short.
I think everyone has missed Ask the Manager, so we're going to relive that that little section here. Items G and item 8, item K.
Okay, I'll start with G. Item G authorizes the township to acquire surplus defense equipment. This could, we're not buying tanks or as much as I'd like to, maybe like a Nighthawk or something like that, but we're not. We might be buying cots. We might be buying blankets. We might be buying vehicles. There certainly are at times the large truck vehicles that become available. But this authorizes us, and the federal government requires the governing body to pass a resolution authorizing the town to purchase that surplus equipment.
So if any particular item came up, it would be on a vote by council before that item is...
It depends on the cost.
Yes.
There's no this is authorizing us to acquire things. It would be on your warrant list, so that you ultimately authorize every expenditure.
Okay.
From the smallest to the largest.
Okay, very good.
And K?
And Resolution K?
All right, so K is one that I hold now near and dear to my heart. About a year ago, I initiated an effort to bring all of our different historic organizations together to try to work together so that they could kind of feed off each other and promote each other's efforts, and we could be a clearinghouse for that. And one of the things that came out of those meetings was a desire to host events like tours of historic sites of Franklin Township. These grants that are offered through the Somerset County Cultural and Heritage Commission of Somerset County fund a 75-25 split on funding events like that and functions like that. And our first one hopefully will be in May of 2019, and we're looking to try to get some funding through a grant from Somerset County, and this is authorizing us to apply for that grant.
Would that be too early to tell us what it is, or we're just waiting somewhere down the road?
The amount, we don't know yet. I mean, we're applying for funding along with a lot of other nonprofits and municipalities. But the more we can get, the better. But we are planning, like I said, I won't, don't hold me to the date right now, but like the first Saturday in May, to do a tour of at least a minimum of 6 different historic sites in Franklin Township, and we're bringing together the organizations to staff their locations and do that.
Are we getting a party bus to take
I'm
us?
talking about that, yeah, actually, that's one of the options.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Oh, my God. Any other items? Anyone else want to play Stump the Chump with the manager? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Chaka?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella? Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Item number 15, resolutions to be voted on separately. There are none. Item 16, old business, boards, commissions, and committees, vacancies.
Yes.
You have someone to nominate.
Yes. And I want to make sure I have this right, so I'm going to look at our esteemed Master
I do
Clerk.
as well.
On the, is it the Planning Board? Caldwell? Anthony Caldwell?
Yes, he's the alternate number one
So
on
he
the
would move,
zoning.
he would move up to the permanent position, correct?
If you so choose, yes.
Right. And then
Gary Rosenthal,
would move up to the first.
he's number two. He can move up to number one if you so desire.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, that's what I put forward.
So say those names again.
Anthony Caldwell moving up to the permanent position, and Gary Rosenthal moving up to the alternate position number one.
And this is for zoning board.
You mentioned
Yes.
planning, zoning, correct?
It's zoning.
Thank you.
Yes.
Zoning. Those people are on zoning. Any other nominations for those positions? Hearing none, we can do it by acclamation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Congratulations, Mr. Caldwell and Mr. Gary Rosenthal. Any other nominations? Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have Cheryl recommending Cheryl Bethia to Sewage Authority.
Cheryl
Bethia, Bethea.
to Sewage Authority.
Is it
Anyone?
Cheryl with a C or an S?
With a C.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to nominate Teresa Ford to the Sewage Authority.
Teresa, what's the last name again?
Ford?
Ford, like the car.
I stand corrected. I will
Withdraw your
withdraw my
nomination?
nomination, yes.
Okay.
For Cheryl Bethia for Sewage Authority.
Okay, so we have one nomination for Sewage Authority, or Teresa Ford. Are there any other nominations for the position?
Is that regular position, alternate position?
Sorry, it's for
It's
the
an
alternate number two.
Okay, because I
And-
didn't, okay.
Yeah, so the alternate position was vacated last night by moving Mr. Amberson to the regular member. And I'd like to clarify that the reason that we did that, I know it's typical for alternate one to move up and alternate two. Alternate number one is Brianna DeVoe, who's younger, just started a new position, so we didn't want to put it on her that to have to challenge between work and the authority as a regular member. It was discussed with her well in advance, so it's not like it was a surprise or done intentionally to go around her. If another seat moves, or another vacancy becomes available, it would be the intent to move her up. It was just based on the timing.
Councilman, you're suggesting that what you're telling us is the desire of the board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other nominations for that position? All in favor of the,
Sorry about that.
is that a-
No, this is for Sewage Authority, right?
yes.
Okay.
Still on
I'm
Sewage
getting
Authority.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Go ahead.
Okay, you're.
I'm ready for this night to be over with.
So
I know.
you're
wanna
still-
move back
you're
into
still
my house.
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, but I want to move back home. I've been out of my house since August, so I'm ready to.
And so if
Sorry.
people didn't get that, a little damage, a little tiny bit of damage, huge damage at the councilwoman's house has had her out of her house for how many months?
Since August 30th.
Since August 30th, and she ran a freeholder campaign and had an automobile accident and had an injury to her for, wow. So anyway, sorry, back to the nomination. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Congratulations, Ms. Ford. Any other nominations for other positions?
Yes, Cheryl Bethia for zoning.
Which position on zoning?
Second position.
Second alternate?
Yes.
Any other nominations for that position? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Congratulations, Ms.
Bethia.
Padilla.
Bethia.
Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
Gary Rosenthal, the chairman of the Human Relations Commission, had sent the recommendation to make an appointment for their vacancy.
Yes, and did he send in a volunteer form?
He did. It was attached to the agenda.
And yes,
I'm opening it.
I'd like to make a motion for Stan Rosario for the opening on the HRC board, replacing Jamie Ye, because he's transferring out of Franklin Township. What a great loss.
I will take a moment to, if it's appropriate, Mayor, Jamie has served on Hamilton Board, Human Relations, and a lot of other volunteer efforts around town in so many capacities, and I found out
And
recently.
emergency management,
Emergency management, in so many ways as a volunteer over the years, and I just want to acknowledge his service and thank you for mentioning him, and you don't
He'll
need
be
a second,
greatly
so I
missed.
will not second it, Mayor, because we don't need one.
thank you. That was a little gift to me from. Any other nominations for that position? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Congratulations. Any other positions? Hearing none, we are now on to Resolution 432, authorize executive session, potential land acquisition, Lewis Street. Do we have a motion to go into executive session?
Motioned.
No move. Oh,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? All in favor of going into executive session, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Oni Jaka?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
yes.
Councilman Wright?
At this time, the Township Council will adjourn to the executive session to discuss authorized executive session, potential land acquisition, Lewis Street. No other actions will be taken by the Township Council. At the conclusion of the executive session, therefore, the recording of this meeting will end. Be well, Franklin.